The chamber of the Galactic Council shone like a giant jewel, bright pillars rising into a high glass dome where a painted galaxy glowed. The seats were arranged in circles around a wide floor of silver and white, and the most powerful rulers in known space sat there in robes and armor and fine rings. They spoke in loud voices and their laughter rolled like thunder. They mocked a small blue world called Earth. They said humans were weak. They said humans were noisy. They said humans did not know real war. Some called humans children. Some called them animals who learned tools by mistake. A tall counselor with metal scales tapped his staff and said the humans beg for peace because they cannot stand in a fight. Another with pale eyes and a thin smile said they wear plain suits because they have nothing worth showing. The laughter grew louder. Servants moved with trays of fruit and glowing drinks. Thin music played in the air, and a screen at the edge of the hall scrolled boring. Reports about trade routes and taxes. Everything felt safe and easy. No one in that bright room felt even a small seed of fear. Then the high doors opened and a messenger walked in. His boots echoed on the hard floor. His grey uniform looked dusty as if he had run. He bowed low. His voice was calm but his hands shook a little. He said, "Honored Council, there is urgent news. It concerns Earth." The first speaker leaned back in his large chair with its gold rails and said, "Let us hear their apology. Perhaps it will be good for a laugh." The messenger said, "It is not an apology. It is a report of action." He raised a crystal slate and the lights dimmed and a round blue map bloomed above the floor. Stars and routes and labeled sectors hung in the air. And then red marks appeared one by one like drops of hot metal. At first the councillors smiled. They thought it was a small border fight, a pirate raid, a glitch. The metal-scaled councillor waved a hand and said, "Show the details so we can finish this and return to business." The map zoomed in on a fortress around a white star called Edrax Prime. The fortress was old and proud, rings of metal, shields like bright nets, guns like teeth pointed into space. The messenger said 3 hours ago a human fleet appeared inside the outer cordon without using any known gate. They formed a perfect line. They did not jam our channels. They did not speak. They extended a dark field that our sensors could not read. Our shields turned soft. Our command core turned to glass. The councillors felt the change in the room. The laughter grew thin. The pale-eyed councillor frowned and said, "Sabotage." The messenger shook his head. He said there was no time for sabotage. The human ships moved like they had practiced this 1,000 times. They did not fire to kill. They fired to make things quiet. Watch. The map showed small lines of light curve into the fortress. The lights inside the rings flickered and faded. There was no great explosion. The guns did not fire. The fortress drifted like a husk. Below it the planet still glowed with city lights. The messenger said, "No civilians harmed. All ports open. Only the military shell is gone." The first speaker's fingers tightened on the armrest. He said, "One fortress can fail by luck. What about our armadas?" The map jumped to another star. Then another. The messenger said the human fleet split into 5 wings. Each wing moved as if it knew what our admirals would do. At Varick Passage our ships formed to counterstrike, but black cones from the human flagship slid between our lines and every engine touched by those shadows went silent. At Hesh Belt Point defense fired for 20 minutes. Our admirals report a kill count of 0. The word 0 landed in the chamber like a stone in deep water. The music stopped. The servants froze. The soft lights above seemed colder. A councillor with wings whispered, "This cannot be true." Another whispered, "Then why are my home codes marked red?" The messenger raised his slate again and said, "There is a human broadcast, open band, sent across our sectors. May I play it?" The first speaker tried to sound amused and said, "Play your drama." The lights dimmed further. A voice filled the hall. It was calm and clear. It could be any teacher, any parent, any worker. And it said, "We asked for peace. You brought war. You struck our colony and called it order. We will not answer with slaughter. We will remove your ability to strike us. We will not break your worlds. We will break your pride. Stand down and speak truth or face the rest of our strength." The voice did not shout. It did not boast. It ended, and the silence that followed felt heavy like a mountain. The first speaker opened his mouth to laugh, but no sound came. The metal-scaled councillor glanced at his neighbors and found no smile, only tight lips and wide eyes. The pale-eyed councillor licked dry lips and said, "They are lying. They cannot do this everywhere." The messenger said, "Honored Council. Here are the times and places." He waved his hand and the map spooled out a ribbon of fresh marks. 3 armadas disabled in less than a day. 5 fortresses turned cold within hours. Patrol fleets losing engines when the dark cones passed. Missiles that would not arm. Targeting systems that refused to lock. Our crews alive. Our ships drifting. our people on the ground untouched. The elder counselor with skin like dry leaves spoke softly and the hall still heard her. She said, once we told stories of a death world where storms train the living to endure. Perhaps we should have listened to the stories. The first speaker snapped, this is myth. We deal in facts. The elder said the map is a fact. The names on our wall are facts. The messenger added there is one more fact. The humans sent us a list of the dead on their colony, names and simple notes, baker, teacher, nurse, friend. They posted it on public boards with our emblem beside each name. A counselor with silver skin flinched and said that is propaganda. The admiral bench murmured no. That is a mirror. A young officer who had been silent stepped forward and said my brother was on the Edrax ring. His ship is dead metal. He is alive because human drones pulled his pod away from the wreck and nudged it into safe orbit. They spared our wounded. I heard his voice an hour ago. Half the chamber looked away, shame rising like heat. The first speaker tried to stand tall and said we will gather our fleets and crush them, even. As he spoke, a new report flashed across the map. The 6th Armada prepared to jump and then went dark, one ship after another. Core systems quiet, crews unharmed, hulls intact, weapons asleep. An admiral said we trained for fire and mass and waves. They are using needles and silence. The pale-eyed counselor whispered, how do they arrive without our gates? A scientist in plain robes rose and said they make small windows in slipspace where they choose. Our eyes do not see those windows. We sought thunder. They use shadow. The first speaker looked at the great blue globe above the floor, and for the first time in many years he had no words. He thought of the meetings with Earth's envoys, the simple suits, the careful voices, the way they asked again and again for fairness in trade and safety for their colonists. He remembered how he had laughed at them after each meeting. He felt a cold thread of memory tighten in his chest. The elder said we can still choose. We can choose the silence that comes when truth is heard, or we can choose the silence that comes when no one is left to speak. A murmur ran through the seats, not laughter, not anger, only fear. Then a deep sound moved through the air, not from the hall, from beyond the sky, a hum like a mountain engine turning. The map expanded to show a black and silver ship the size of a small city waiting at the edge of their home system. The massive hull shone like night glass, no weapons visible, yet every line of it promised strength. A short text glowed on the edge of the map. We are here, we. Wait for the council to speak. The first speaker stared and felt his throat tighten. A counselor with wings whispered, meet them. Another hissed, trap. Another breathed, parley. The words rose and fell like wind in dry grass. The first speaker struck his rail with the gavel. The sound rang up into the dome and came back thin. He said, bring me the treaty logs. Bring me every insult we spoke. Bring me the first request for peace we mocked. He did not know why he said it, but he could not stop. The elder looked at him with tired kindness and nodded. The pale-eyed counselor pressed his hands together and whispered, unseen fleets, unseen power, unseen patience. The messenger lowered his slate and said quietly, honored council. There is also this. Smaller races send messages to Earth. They ask for protection. They call the humans fair. The first speaker closed his eyes for a breath and said, enough reports. Send a request for talks at Lumen Gate. Guarantee the safety of their envoys. Order our fleets to hold fire. A few voices shouted no, never, fight. But their words were thin and empty under the shadow of the map. The first speaker opened his eyes and saw his own hand shaking, and he hated that. He forced his hand still. He looked at the high doors and imagined them opening to a human envoy. Plain suit, calm eyes, steady voice, and he imagined the laughter that used to fill this hall. It felt like a sound from another life. The bright chamber still shone like a jewel, but the light did not feel warm anymore. It felt like ice. The council that once mocked a small blue world now sat very quiet. And in that quiet a new shape began to form. A shape made of truth and weight and the simple hard fact that Earth had asked for peace, had been refused, and had learned how to make the loudest rulers in the galaxy listen without shouting. The first speaker's voice, when it finally came, was low and rough. Send the message, he said, and keep the map on. We will look at what we did. Until we remember how to be better. No one laughed, no one argued. The music did not return. Only the soft hum of the projectors and the slow turn of the blue star map. And far beyond their windows the human flagship waited like a still moon, patient, bright, and unafraid. The council chamber did not return to laughter after the first speaker's final order. The bright dome above still glowed with stars, but none of the rulers looked up. Their eyes remained fixed on the blue sphere of the star map. Red scars spreading across it like wounds that would not close. The silence was not calm silence. It was heavy, tense, filled with the unspoken question that each counselor carried. What if this is only the beginning? What if Earth has not yet shown its full hand? The pale-eyed counselor leaned back in his chair, his face drained of arrogance. He whispered as if to himself, unseen fleets, unseen power, unseen patience. The words rolled into the chamber like smoke. Others heard and felt their stomachs twist. An admiral with long golden armor stood, his voice deep but unsteady. He said, "This cannot continue. We are the council. The galaxy bends when we speak, yet our fleets bend when Earth whispers. Our fortresses are hollow shells. Our weapons are asleep. What answer do we give?" No one replied. Many looked down. Some covered their faces with hands or wings. Others clutched the rails of their seats so tightly their fingers shook. The elder with skin like dry leaves finally spoke. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the chamber. She said, "We laughed at them when they came in peace. We mocked them when they asked for fairness. We called them primitive when they wore plain suits. Now they show us what strength looks like when patience runs out." Her words settled like dust, hard and unavoidable. The first speaker tried to gather his voice, his pride pushing against the fear in his chest. He said, "No single world can undo the order of the galaxy. No people, no matter how fierce, can stand against centuries of power." But even as he spoke, another messenger entered, his face pale, his slate clutched tight. He bowed and his words came out fast, "Honored Council. The Sixth Armada is gone, not destroyed, not burned, but gone. Their engines are silent. Their crews alive but drifting, our own. Ships powerless, the hall filled with low gasps, the sound of many throats drawing in breath at once." The first speaker's eyes widened. He tried to shout liar, but the map shifted, showing the Sixth Armada dim. Its great pattern of lights dark, only faint signals from life pods, no weapons, no shields, just silence. The pale-eyed counselor leaned forward, his voice breaking. He said, "This is not war. This is something worse. This is humiliation. They are carving away our pride, piece by piece." The metal-scaled counselor hissed loudly. "Then we must answer with slaughter, send assassins, poison their skies, tear their colonies apart." But an admiral snapped back. "What colonies? They guard their worlds like fortresses. Their fleets appear and vanish. We cannot even find them before they strike." The argument spread through the chamber, shouts of vengeance clashing with pleas for peace. But no voice carried the same weight as before, because in every counselor's chest lived the same fear. They had already lost control. Then the star map flickered again and a new message forced its way into the hall. Not words of fire, not roaring threats, but a calm human voice, smooth and steady. It said, "Galactic Council, we do not seek to rule, we do not seek to conquer. But we will not kneel, we will not forget. You struck our people, you killed our families. Now your weapons lie still, your fleets drift, your fortresses sleep. Understand this. We will fight until you see truth, until you speak it, until your arrogance ends. Then and only then will peace return." The voice faded. The chamber stayed dark for a moment, every counselor sitting still as statues. The first speaker tried to answer but no sound came. His throat felt dry. The elder bowed her head and whispered almost to herself, "They are deathwelders, trained by storms and fire to rise again, and now they rise here." The hall grew restless. Some shouted that humans must be crushed before they gathered allies. Others whispered that it was already too late. The pale-eyed counselor pointed to the map where green lights had begun to appear. He said, "Look, smaller races are sending signals. They drift to Earth now, calling them protector, calling them liberator. The council once called itself guardian of the weak. Now the weak look elsewhere." His words stung like acid. Many looked away, ashamed. The first speaker slammed his staff on the floor, his voice cracking. He said, "We are not broken. We are not finished. We will remind them who rules." But his words sounded hollow. No one cheered, no one laughed. The sound of his gavel echoed thinly and died in the high dome. The star map turned slowly, each red mark glowing like a scar, each green light glowing like betrayal. The chamber that once roared with arrogance now shook with fear and anger. The mighty rulers of 100 worlds sat small in their own hall, speechless, trembling, each heartbeat carrying the same truth deeper into their bones. Earth had struck back. Earth had spared their people but destroyed their pride. Earth had made the council silent, and the silence was only beginning. The chamber of the council stood heavy with silence. The bright dome above glittered with painted stars, but it no longer felt grand. It felt like a cage. The councillors shifted in their seats, their robes heavy, their eyes restless. No one dared to laugh anymore. No one even dared to speak too loudly. The first speaker sat stiff, his hands tight on the golden arms of his throne. His face pale though he tried to hide it. The star map above them turned slowly. Red marks spreading like fire across parchment. Each mark another fortress silenced, another fleet disabled, another symbol of their pride stripped away. The pale-eyed counselor whispered unseen fleets, unseen power, unseen patience, and though his voice was low it echoed in every ear. An admiral with silver hair and a scar on his cheek rose, his voice trembling but determined. He said, "Our scouts have tried to follow them, but every time we lock on their trail the ships vanish. It is as if they slip into a shadow no one else can see. Then they appear again at our strongholds, striking with perfect precision. We fire back and yet nothing hits, nothing locks. The humans are fighting as if they know where we will be before we even move." The counselors stirred uneasily, some muttering in disbelief, others shaking their heads in fear. The first speaker slammed his staff and said, "They cannot hide forever. No fleet can, no power lasts without weakness." But even he sounded less certain than before. Then the map flickered and a new image appeared, a small fortress on the rim of council space, proud and strong, built to guard trade lanes. It glowed bright one moment. The next its lights dimmed, its shields fell. Its guns turned cold, no explosions, no battles, only silence. The messenger's voice cracked as he explained. Human ships arrived without warning, extended their dark fields, and the fortress went dead in minutes, crews unharmed, civilians untouched, the military shell gone. The counselors gasped, some covered their mouths, others whispered in dread. This was worse than destruction, it was erasure. The elder with skin like dry leaves leaned forward, her eyes sharp despite her years. She said, "They are not destroying us. They are unmaking our arrogance. They strike only what gave us pride, our fortresses, our fleets, our weapons, everything we used to laugh at them. They cut those away until nothing is left but the truth we refuse to see." Her words settled like stones on the chamber floor, heavy and undeniable. A younger counselor, his voice shaking with rage, leapt to his feet. He shouted, "Then let us show them terror. Let us burn their colonies. Let us make them bleed." But an admiral barked back, "Have you not listened? We cannot even reach them. They move faster than thought. They hide where we cannot see. You speak of burning their colonies but you cannot even find them." The young counselor sat down, his face white with shame. Then the chamber grew darker as a transmission forced its way in. The humans again. The same calm voice as before. It said, "Galactic Council. Your weapons are silent. Your fleets adrift. Your fortress is cold. Yet your people live. We do not come for their lives. We come for your pride. You called us weak. You mocked us. You struck at our homes. Now we strike back, not to conquer, but to remind you that respect is not given, it is earned. And you have earned our wrath. Speak truth or remain silent forever." The words echoed softly but they pressed on every chest like iron. The first speaker tried to reply but no words came, his throat dry, his heart pounding. The pale-eyed counselor muttered, "This is not war. This is judgment." The metal-scaled counselor hissed loudly at his trickery, illusions, machines. But his hiss sounded hollow, no one believed him. Because the map still glowed with red scars, too many to deny. Then another report arrived, this one worse than all before. Scouts confirmed that smaller races, once begging for council protection, now rallied behind Earth. They sent envoys, pledges, even fleets, calling humans protectors, guardians, liberators. The counselors groaned, some cursed, some sat frozen. The elder whispered softly, "This is how power changes. Not with fire but with truth. The weak have chosen their shield, and it is no longer us." The chamber filled with murmurs, some demanding vengeance, others whispering surrender. Voices rose and collided until the hall shook with noise. But it was not laughter, it was panic. The first speaker struck his staff again and again to quiet them. His voice raw when he finally said, "We are the council. We will not kneel to primitives." But even as he shouted, he felt the eyes of the others, cold, doubtful, no longer certain, no longer loyal. Above them the star map turned slowly, showing more red, more green lights blooming where smaller races pledged to Earth. And the counselors realized their world was shrinking, their empire fading, and their pride was bleeding out into the silence. In that shining chamber, once filled with arrogance and scorn, the rulers of the galaxy sat afraid, trembling, their voices breaking, unable to hide the truth any longer. Earth had struck back, Earth had been mocked and dismissed. And now Earth's retaliation moved like a shadow across the stars, leaving the council speechless in its wake. The chamber of the council no longer shone with pride. Though the dome above still glittered with false stars, the rulers inside felt only darkness. They sat in their seats heavy with silence, the red scars on the star map above glowing brighter with each report. The servants who once walked confidently now moved like shadows, carrying trays no one touched. The first speaker sat still on his throne, his jaw set but his hands trembling where he hid them beneath his robe. The laughter that once filled this hall was now only a memory. Then the lights dimmed without command, the chamber doors sealed, and the map expanded into a pale grey field, a transmission forcing its way into their heart. The guards moved to block it but failed. The systems obeyed a stronger hand, and then a human face appeared, calm, stern, framed by a simple dark uniform. Behind him only the endless starfield. His voice filled the dome, steady like stone. We asked for peace, you gave us war, we asked for fairness. You gave us scorn, you struck our colony and called it justice. Now we strike back, not with fire but with silence, not with conquest but with judgment. Your fleets are broken, your fortresses are quiet, your weapons sleep. This will not end until you speak truth. His eyes seemed to pierce each seat as if he stood inside the chamber itself. When the image vanished, the silence that followed felt heavier than the words. Counselors shifted, robes rustling, wings twitching, hands clenching rails. One finally broke the stillness, a counselor with silver skin, his voice thin. He whispered, they do not even shout. They do not boast, and yet I fear them more than any roaring conqueror. His words hung in the air, unanswered, because many felt the same. The first speaker rose, his robe dragging against the silver floor. He raised his staff and tried to summon strength into his voice. He said, we are the council. We have ruled for centuries. No single world, no upstart race can bend us. But even as he spoke his voice cracked. His staff shook. His eyes betrayed fear. A murmur rippled through the seats, doubt, disbelief, pity, even shame. An admiral stepped forward, his face grey with exhaustion. He said, our sixth armada is gone. Our forts are husks, our weapons blind. The humans appear and vanish at will. They do not even kill, they humiliate, they strip us bare. If we cannot strike them, then we must face them. The words stung the chamber, many hissed betrayal, but none could deny the truth in them. Then another report flashed across the map. Smaller races who once begged for the council's shield now stood beside Earth, their envoys pledging loyalty, their fleets sailing with human escorts, their banners waving beside Earth's plain flag. The pale-eyed counselor spoke, his voice low but clear. This is worse than their ships. This is worse than their weapons. They are stealing our voice. They are making the weak choose them, and soon none will hear us. The scaled counselor roared in anger, pounding his rail. Then let us crush the weak, burn them before they gather. But the elder with skin like dry leaves answered, her voice soft yet firm. If you strike the weak now, you will prove every word the humans speak. You will show them and us that we are nothing but arrogance. The argument grew loud, voices colliding like storms, some crying for vengeance, others whispering surrender. The chamber shook with sound. But the sound was not power, it was panic, until the map shifted once more. The human flagship appeared, larger than anything they had built, black and silver, its surface glowing with hidden light. It hung at the edge of their home system like a second moon, unmoving, patient. The hall fell into silence again. And then words appeared in plain script across every wall. We are here. We wait for the council to speak. The first speaker's heart hammered. He looked at the map, at the ship, at the words. He felt the weight of history pressed down on him. Centuries of arrogance, centuries of command, now all crumbling in a single breath. He raised his staff and said in a voice low but clear, bring me the treaties. Bring me the first insult. Bring me every record of our laughter at their pleas. We will face what we did. His voice broke but no one mocked him. The chamber stayed hushed. The counselors stared. The elder bowed her head, and the pale-eyed counselor whispered again, unseen fleets, unseen power, unseen patience. Outside their windows, the human flagship waited, still and silent, its shadow falling across the council's world. And inside the chamber the rulers who once mocked Earth sat speechless, trembling, knowing the galaxy they had shaped was slipping away, knowing their pride had already been broken, and knowing that until they answered the humans, until they spoke the truth, they would remain silent prisoners in their own shining hall. the chamber felt colder than stone, though lights still burned. Along the high dome and the star map glowed above the silver floor. The counselors no longer carried themselves like rulers. They sat slumped in their chairs, shoulders bent under fear, their voices quiet. The first speaker stared at the glowing map as if trying to will the red scars away. But more appeared, spreading across the sectors like blood. Each mark another fortress gone dark, another fleet silenced. A messenger entered again, his boots echoing on the polished floor. He bowed low and held up a slate. His voice unsteady, honored counsel. New reports have come. The humans have expanded their strikes. Not only border outposts, not only armadas, now they reach into the heart of your proudest worlds. The map shifted and the chamber gasped, for it was not a distant colony that glowed red. It was a homeworld of one of their strongest members. A planet crowned with defenses, ringed by fortresses, shielded by weapons that had never failed. The image showed human ships sliding into orbit, their dark fields spreading, shields folding as if made of paper, defense cannons turning quiet, orbital fleets drifting helpless. The silver-skinned counselor who ruled that world leapt to his feet. His voice cracked with rage. He cried, "This cannot be. No one breaks our shields, no one passes our lines." But the map did not lie. His homeworld lay silent above its still bright cities. Its military power gone, its pride broken, civilians safe, soldiers alive but disarmed. The counselors watched in horror, their faces pale, their claws, wings, or hands trembling against the rails. An admiral spoke in a low, bitter tone. They choose their targets carefully. They leave the cities. They leave the families. They strike only at what makes us strong, and that is what makes us weak. His words hung heavy in the air. The elder with skin like dry leaves nodded slowly. She said they could have burned the world. They could have left nothing but ash. But they did not. They show mercy, and in that mercy they hold greater power. For the galaxy will see them as just, while it will see us as cruel. The scaled counselor roared with fury, his tail striking the floor. He said, "Then let us do what they refuse. Let us scorch their colonies. Let us show them that mercy is weakness." But the pale-eyed counselor turned to him, his voice hollow, and asked, "Can you even reach their colonies? Can you even find their fleets?" And silence followed, because all knew the answer. The chamber grew restless, whispers spilling across the seats, surrender, revenge, peace, destruction, every word clashing against the other. The first speaker tried to rise, his robe heavy, his staff trembling in his hand. He said, "We must not bend, we must not bow. We must remind them who we are." But his words faltered, for at that moment another projection appeared, unbidden, the human signal forcing its way into the council's heart again. The image showed their colossal flagship, black and silver, its hull larger than any fortress, its shadow falling across the stars. A calm voice followed, "We will not burn your homes, we will not kill your children, but we will not stop, world by world, fleet by fleet, fortress by fortress, until you admit what you did, until you speak the truth you buried beneath your arrogance." The words pressed down like a weight. Counselors bowed their heads, some in shame, some in rage. The silver-skinned one wept quietly, thinking of his proud defenses turned silent. His voice trembling as he said, "They are dismantling us in front of the galaxy, and still they do not kill. They are unmaking who we are, not what we have." The elder whispered softly, "Then perhaps who we were was never worthy. Perhaps this is the truth we mocked." The chamber fell into uneasy silence again, the sound of breaths shallow, the star map above turning slowly, red scars spreading deeper into the galaxy's heart. And outside their skies the human flagship still waited, patient, unshaken, its presence alone enough to remind the mighty council that their pride was already shattered, their voices already silenced, and their power slipping away with every moment they refused to face the truth. The chamber of the Galactic Council felt like a tomb. Though light still poured from the high dome and servants still moved at the edges, no one in the center of power spoke with confidence anymore. The star map turned above them like a slow wheel of judgment. Every new red scar a fortress disabled, every dim mark a fleet drifting powerless, and now green lights had begun to glow, spreading across sectors where once the council's banners flew. Those lights were worse than wounds, they were betrayals, signs of smaller races stepping away from the council's authority and into Earth's shadow. The first speaker sat frozen on his throne, his jaw tight, his eyes dull. He had ruled this hall with laughter and iron words for decades, yet tonight his voice was absent. He listened as the pale-eyed counselor rose slowly and pointed at the map, his voice trembling yet sharp. He said, "Do you see? They are not only breaking our weapons, They are stealing our voice. Every small race that once begged for our shield now calls Earth Protector. Every convoy that once needed our fleets now sails under theirs, and still we sit here, arguing. The silver-skinned counselor who had lost his homeworld's defenses snarled in grief. He said they turned my world into a husk and left it breathing. I would rather they burned it than leave me in shame. His words shook but found no agreement, for many secretly knew shame was heavier than death. An admiral stepped forward, his cloak dragging, his voice hoarse from sleepless nights. He said reports confirm the Kalari enclaves now trade openly with Earth. The Valen tribes have pledged them oaths. Even the silent Orvas open their gates. The weak gather behind humanity because humanity fights not with fire but with purpose. He paused and looked around the chamber, his eyes weary. We can call them primitive, we can call them reckless, but the weak see them as just, the weak see them as strong. The elder with skin like dry leaves nodded, her voice carrying though soft. She said this is the power we mocked, the power of respect, not taken by crowns or decrees, but earned by actions. The scaled counselor slammed his tail against the floor, his hiss sharp. He cried lies, the weak are fools, they will regret this when we rise again. But his voice did not stir the hall. His fury sounded small against the weight of the truth glowing on the map. The pale-eyed counselor whispered back, rise again with what fleets, with what allies. Every hour we lose another star, another oath, another voice. The scaled counselor fell silent, his eyes burning but empty. Then the hall dimmed again as another human message forced its way in. This time not a voice, but simple words scrawled in light across the dome. We do not seek to rule, but we will protect those who ask. If you cannot defend them, we will. If you mock them, we will hear them. If you silence them, we will give them voice. The words glowed plain and white. No roar, no music, yet they struck harder than any weapon. For in those lines the counselors saw what the galaxy now believed. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted we must fight until our last breath. Others cried that surrender was the only path. One counselor shouted poison their skies. Another whispered beg for peace. The noise rose like a storm until the first speaker slammed his staff down. The sound cracked but weak, his voice breaking as he said silence. He looked around, his eyes wet, his voice raw. If we cannot even agree with each other, then the council is already dead. A hush fell, his words too heavy to deny. The elder leaned forward, her eyes glowing in the dim light. She said we were given centuries of loyalty, and we paid it back with arrogance. We told the weak to kneel. Now they rise, not with us, but with those we scorned. Perhaps this is not their shame, but ours. Her words spread through the chamber like water through cracks. Many counselors lowered their heads, some clenched their fists, some stared into nothing. Outside the great windows of the hall, the stars of their home system still shone, but hidden in that sky was the massive human flagship, a shadow against the void, waiting with endless patience. Inside the hall the mighty rulers of the galaxy tore themselves apart with arguments, half calling for war, half begging for peace, yet all knowing the same truth in their hearts, that Earth had already undone them, not by fire, not by conquest, but by forcing the galaxy to see what the Council truly was, arrogant, brittle, and afraid, and with every hour the silence grew heavier, pressing them toward a choice they had never imagined they would face. The Council chamber had become a place of noise without strength, voices rising and falling, threats clashing with pleas, but none carried the weight of certainty anymore. The dome above still glowed with painted stars, yet it felt more like a ceiling pressing down than a sky opening wide. The star map in the center spun slowly, and the counselors could not take their eyes from it. For every new mark it showed was another piece of their power slipping away. Red scars spread across the sectors like open wounds, and now more green lights began to bloom, tiny at first, then spreading wider, symbols of smaller races choosing Earth, declaring loyalty, pledging oaths. The first speaker sat pale and rigid on his throne, his staff resting in his lap, his eyes fixed on the green lights as though by staring hard enough he could erase them. But he knew he could not. He felt the weight of history pressing against him, centuries of arrogance collapsing in a handful of days. A messenger stepped forward and bowed, his slate glowing. Honored Council, new declarations have arrived. The Valen tribes have formally sworn allegiance to Earth. Their fleets now move alongside human escorts. The Kalari enclaves have signed trade pacts with Earth's envoys. Even the Orvas, silent for generations, now open their gates to human ships. His words fell heavy. The chamber stirred with uneasy whispers. The pale-eyed counselor rose slowly, his voice low but steady. He said the weak no longer fear us. They no longer look to us. They have found a protector that does not laugh at their pain, does not demand tribute, does not use them as pawns. They have found Earth. His words cut deep. The silver-skinned counselor who had already lost his homeworld's defenses snarled bitterly. They will regret it. Earth will use them. Earth will rule them. But the elder with skin like dry leaves shook her head. Her voice soft yet firm. She said no. Earth has shown restraint where we showed cruelty. Mercy where we showed arrogance. The galaxy sees this, and the galaxy chooses. An admiral stepped forward, his face shadowed with shame, his voice hoarse. He said our fleets are scattered, our fortresses stripped, our allies gone. The only ones who remain at our side are those too afraid to leave, and even their loyalty fades. The scaled counselor slammed his tail against the floor, his hiss loud. He cried, then we will burn the traitors. We will scorch their worlds before they can betray us again. But his words met silence. No nods, no cheers, only cold stares. The pale-eyed counselor whispered back, burn them with what? With which fleets? With which weapons? Our blades are broken. Our fists are bound. We roar but we cannot strike. The arguments grew hotter, some calling for vengeance, others begging for talks. The chamber shook with noise. But then the map flickered and a new message appeared. Human text plain and white glowing across the dome. We will protect those who ask. We will guard those who kneel. We will not take thrones. We will not demand crowns. We will only shield those who trust. The words hung like a promise and a warning. Every counselor who read them felt the same ache. Because already the weak had trusted. Already the small had turned away from the council's power. The first speaker rose, his staff trembling in his hand. His voice cracked as he cried, we are the council. We cannot kneel. We cannot bow. But his words carried no strength. They sounded hollow in the vast hall. Many counselors turned away, others lowered their heads. The elder's eyes glowed faintly as she whispered, perhaps kneeling to truth is not weakness. Perhaps silence before justice is not shame. Her words settled in the silence that followed. A silence so deep it seemed to choke the air. Outside their high windows the stars of their home system glittered cold and bright. And among them waited the human flagship, vast and patient. A silent shadow across the void. Inside the chamber the rulers of 100 worlds, once feared and obeyed, now sat divided, broken, half demanding fire, half whispering peace, all knowing the same truth. That the galaxy had already chosen, and it had not chosen them, it had chosen Earth, and their own voices, once so loud, were now drowned by a silence. Heavier than war. The chamber of the Galactic Council, once the heart of galactic power, now trembled under its own weight. The great dome above glowed with cold light. The star map in the center spun slowly, casting red and green across every face, red scars marking fortresses silenced and fleets disabled, green lights spreading like roots of a new tree, smaller races stepping into Earth's shadow, choosing humans as protector. Every flicker of the map was a wound to the Council's pride. The first speaker gripped his staff as if it alone kept him from falling, his face pale, his voice rough. He shouted enough. But his words sounded hollow in the vast chamber. The scaled counselor hissed loudly, his tail lashing against the floor. He cried, we cannot let this stand. We must strike. Strike before Earth's shadow spreads further. But the pale-eyed counselor rose in answer. His voice steady though soft. Strike with what? He asked. Our fleets are husks. Our fortresses are quiet. Our allies abandon us. Our weapons sleep. Do you still not see? The chamber erupted, voices clashing. Some screamed for vengeance. Others begged for peace. Some shouted burn Earth. Others whispered kneel. The silver-skinned counselor whose homeworld's defenses had been stripped stood shaking. His voice cracked as he cried, I would rather die in flames than live in this shame. An admiral turned on him, his own voice hoarse. You may welcome death. But will your people, your families, your cities welcome it? Earth spares civilians. They do not slaughter. But if we force their hand, will that mercy remain? Silence fell for a heartbeat, broken only by the rustle of robes and the sound of the map spinning. Then the elder with skin like dry leaves rose, her frail form straight, her voice calm. She said, we are already divided, half of us clinging to pride, half to survival. And in this fracture Earth has already won. They need not fire another shot. Their victory grows with every hour we waste. Her words pressed heavy on the chamber. But the scaled counselor spat back, you are old, you are weak. You speak surrender dressed as wisdom. Better to burn the galaxy than bow to primitives, the elder met. His eyes, her voice like stone. Better to bow to truth than choke on lies. The chamber shook with noise again, arguments rising like storms. Some counselors turned on each other, claws against scales, wings flaring, guards rushing forward. The once united council now looked like a pack of frightened animals, tearing at one another while the shadow outside grew larger. The first speaker slammed his staff, shouting order, but his command cracked. His voice no longer carried the weight it once did. Many ignored him. Then the map flickered, a human message forced its way in. Plain text glowing across the dome. You are divided, you are broken, we will not strike your people. But we will not stop striking your pride, until you speak truth, until you end your arrogance, until you choose peace. The words glowed bright and vanished, leaving the chamber in heavy silence once more. The pale-eyed counselor whispered, "It is not their weapons that defeat us, it is our refusal to see." The scaled counselor roared, "Traitor," but his voice rang thin. The elder closed her eyes and said quietly, "The galaxy has already chosen. It no longer kneels to us, it listens to Earth." The first speaker looked around the chamber, at the chaos, at the fear, at the silence between shouts, and he felt the truth press down on him like stone. Outside, above their skies, the massive human flagship still waited, a black shadow lit with silver lines, patient, unmoving, watching, and inside the once mighty council chamber, the rulers of 100 worlds turned on each other, divided and broken, their voices loud but powerless, while Earth's voice, calm and relentless, hung in the silence between them, stronger than all their noise.